Welcome to another Chalk or Not segment. This week we're talking about UFC Shanghai. And a reminder, this segment is all to help you traverse the chalky spots on all these cards, whether you want to parlay these spots, play them straight, or even look to avoid them completely. I hope this guide will help you out. And a reminder, the definition of what a lock of the not a lock of the night. I just finished my lock of the night segment. The definition of a chalk spot for me is a money line spot that is anything minus 185 or wider. And in terms of this card, this 12 fight card, I believe 7 of the 12 fights are considered chalk to me. So I'll only be talking about those 7 fights. So let's get right into it. First matchup up, Yizha coming in at minus 1,200, going up against Weston Wilson. And even though I think Yizha crushes Wilson and probably finishes him early, if you've been watching this segment long enough, you know I do not fuck with anything above that minus 700, minus 800 range. Thus, I'm going to have to put Yizha in the not chalk-worthy category, no matter what. MMA is too volatile to trust anybody as that big of a favorite. I would avoid at all costs. Next up, Michel Pereira coming in at minus 260, going up against Kyle Daukaus. Daukaus makes his return to the UFC after putting together a 4-0 record after being released at the ending of 2022, while Pereira is looking to bounce back after a very abysmal and un-Pereira-like performance last time against Abus Magomedov. I'm hoping that was somebody kind of slapped Pereira after that fight and said, hey, what the hell are you doing? That was a horrible performance. You got to throw with more heat, more violence, like people have known you to do. But again, to try to trust him at minus 260 against a guy in Kyle Daukaus, who I'm surely is highly motivated to come back to the UFC and put on a good performance, it's tough to trust Pereira until he showcases that he's found that fire again. So I think he wins. I think he knocks Daukaus out, and I think Daukaus doesn't really react well to getting hit with those big shots. But it all comes down to whether Pereira will actually throw those big shots and throw them often enough to give himself a winning chance. So I'm going to have to unfortunately put Pereira in the not chalk-worthy category, as I think that last performance was just a bit of a red flag and doesn't give you too much confidence going into this next matchup for him. All right, next up, we got Rongzhu coming in at minus 250, going up against Austin Hubbard. I think this is a great stylistic matchup for Rongzhu to go out there on style on Hubbard and maybe even come through with a knockout victory. I think his takedown defense has clearly improved, and that's kind of what Hubbard's game has been since returning to the UFC. But I don't think that's going to work out here against Rongzhu. Even if Hubbard looks to strike with Rongzhu, I don't think he'll be able to get the better of him there. Rongzhu will do a good job in terms of stopping the takedowns, dictating the pace of this matchup, putting his big power combinations on Hubbard, and eventually getting him out of there. Thus, I'll put Rongzhu in the chalk-worthy category. Next up, we got Tailak Nueraji coming in at minus 470, going up against Crosbie. I'm, very excited about Nueraji's official UFC debut. He came through with a highlight reel knockout on the road to UFC back in 2023, went back to the regional scene, picked up 3 more first-round finishes, and I expect him to continue that trend here against Crosbie, but I'm not a big fan of his striking defense. His chin is a little bit too wide up in the air, throws his shots, and doesn't really care too much about the defense or counters coming back his way. And Crosbie is a big power puncher. I know he's not looked that good in the UFC, but if Nueraji looks to keep this fight in the stand-up realm, that's where Crosbie could potentially pull off an upset. I'm picking Nueraji to win. I think the under 1.5 is probably the best way to go in this fight, but I think that Nueraji eventually finds that knockout, but no way would I trust him at that minus 470 line, considering some of the technical striking defense issues that he has in his game. Thus, I'll be putting Nueraji in the not chalk-worthy category. All right, next up, we got the heavyweights throwing down here as we have Sergey Pavlovich. Sorry, I don't know what the fuck happened there. Coming in at minus 220, going up against the streaking Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Now, Pavlovich showed us a great game last time around against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, landing powerful combinations, dropping Rozenstruik repeatedly, and then grinding the rest of those rounds out with his top control. He's going to be facing a lot more output here and a very pesky jab from Cortes-Acosta, and I think the footwork of Cortes-Acosta makes this a little bit trickier for Pavlovich. I think Pavlovich wins, and I think he lands his combinations, and he might land some big shots on Cortes-Acosta to drop him as well, or even eventually change levels behind behind some of his power shots to get some top time. But I think Cortes-Acosta is at a sky-high confidence right now. His mobile striking style could provide Pavlovich some issues, and I think this fight ends up playing out closer than minus 220 indicates. I think Pavlovich wins, but I do not think he is chalk-worthy in this fight. Next up, co-main event, as we have former bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling coming in at minus 270, looking to bounce back after dropping a fight to Movsar Evloev back in December, and he takes on former title challenger Brian Ortega. Now, stylistically, both of these guys are BJJ heavy guys, right? But Sterling is the better wrestler, and I think that will help him establish these dominant positions against Ortega, even after he, sticks to that striking with his kicks and flashy style. It's all about getting fights to the ground and grinding opponents out there. Ortega is very dangerous, no matter where the fight is and no matter how much damage he takes. But I think that Sterling is just taking this much more seriously. I think he's the better overall fighter. I think he has the gas tank to go the full 5 rounds to control Ortega on his back. And I could just see him like backpacking Ortega for at least 3 of these rounds without Ortega having much of an answer. So at minus 270, I'm going to put Sterling in the chalk-worthy category. All right, the final spot that we're going to talk about here for chalk or not is going to be Zhang Minggang coming in at minus 310 for his first UFC main event, going up against Johnny Walker. Now, usually I'm against picking guys that are on these finishing streaks and haven't truly been tested. But considering the comically horrible chin of Johnny Walker, I feel like this is going to be a showcase spot for Zhang. I think he'll be able to walk Walker down, land those big shots, and I think one of those will eventually drop or at least wobble Walker, and then from there, Zhang should be able to turn on the jets and get Walker out of there. Minus 300, a little bit iffy. In my notes, I actually put him as chalk-worthy, but the more that I'm thinking about it, I would rather trust his props. You get round 1 at plus 115, round 1 knockout or about plus 135. I think those are a little bit better and the best bang for your buck. Thus, because if this does trickle into the second round, maybe Walker can muster up some success here and really start making Zhang work, especially as that knockout power starts to fall. I think Zhang still ends up finding that big shot early and puts him away. But, I would rather trust props similar to the Nueraji fight that I talked about earlier, and I'll probably avoid the chalk on Zhang here. So I'll put Zhang in the not chalk-worthy category. There you guys go. Chalk or not for UFC Shanghai. That's 2 segments out for the day. It looks like I'll be dropping my PFL breakdown for you guys on Wednesday. That card goes down on Thursday, so appreciate you guys bearing with me there. But yeah, I'll see you guys again tomorrow for the quick picks as well as the PFL breakdown for you guys. See you guys then. Peace.